What's up, y'all? We are back with another edition of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast. I'm Justin Michael. You may know me as J-Mike. We've got Eric LaCroix in the building. We've got a fun show planned for you. We're going to react to this weekend's action, set the scene a little bit for the conference finals. We've also got a great exclusive interview. Eric was able to catch up with Cole Eiserman, Max LaCroix. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys are going to enjoy it. We'll talk development, focus on all kinds of stuff. I guess it makes sense to just start with this weekend's action. We'll get into Florida-Toronto here momentarily, but Dallas grinds out another overtime win against Winnipeg. They're now 4-0 and one-goal games this postseason. It feels like in those tight matchups, they find a way. What stood out to you about this one, E?
Boy, oh boy, champs for me. They played like champions. There's a reason those guys won last year. There's a reason they made it all the way to the finals the year before, obviously running out of gas against Vegas. But, boy, they know how to play the game. They know how to just stay the course, stick to their program, stick to their system, elevate their game when they need to make a play or execute. Get a little production. That Marchand third line was outstanding. Again, Marchand is just a leaf killer. I mean, it's just ridiculous over the years, but that's a different story. But yeah, I thought, and goaltending, Bobrovsky was superb. You know, like when he had to be, especially earlier on. I don't think they got a shot on net till 11 or 12 minute mark, and then they got a couple dangerous ones, and Bobrovsky was awesome. So Toronto kind of survives that 10 minutes, which felt like it was a road game for Toronto, but it was actually a home game because Florida was so good the first 10 minutes. It was so fun to watch. And, you know, if you're trying to teach someone hockey, like this is how you want to play, you just say, watch this right here, because they were doing everything right. You know what I mean? That they were tight in their gaps. They were tight on their forecheck. They were executing 2-foot passes, 20-foot passes. They're putting pucks on net. And Toronto at the block, I think, like a dozen shots the first 10 minutes. So, you know, Florida came out swinging. But then again, it was only 0-0. And then that's why I say Bobrovsky, you know, tip your hat to him. Made a couple saves there once the Leafs got their legs from underneath them. And they got a couple chances. And Bobrovsky stood tall, which is hard to do when you don't see the puck for the first 10 minutes. Not even a dump and nothing. He was not even in the game. So, I mean, what stood out to me is exactly that. Is those guys are the champions for a reason. They're tough to, and there's more to them, as we know. Tkachuk was very quiet this series. You know, so they have three lines, and you know, one of their top lines was kind of quiet. The one with Matthew, I don't know if obviously he's injured somehow, like he missed the last few months. So, but still, you know, there's another gear to their team. And boy, you're talking about Colorado, you know, local guy there, Seth Jones. He looked awesome. You know what I mean? He was phenomenal. He was great. Lived up to the moment. Again, Marchand, you're used to that because he lives for those games. But a guy that elevated his game like Seth Jones, that was fun to watch. It was fun to see. And for the Leafs, it was the same old story, right? I mean, I hate to bag on them, but it's the same old story, and they can't do it. And you just have to look at their last two home games in those situations, you know, which is a 2-2 series. You know, Game 5, that was kind of atrocious. And then I thought they played great for Game 6 on the road. We were just talking about that, you and me, on the road. You know, is there less pressure? I don't know what it is, but then again, yesterday it was bad. It was one team out there. It was the Florida Panthers. So you got to look at your last two games at home, and I think you have to look at the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever how long it's been for those main guys to be together. And I think you have to come to the conclusion that you just can't do it. I mean, there's no ifs and buts. I think at some point, I think they've kept the Band-Aid long enough, you know what I mean? And I think you just got to make a move, which, whatever that is. I mean, obviously Marner's going to probably walk, and that's another story, and people are going to be mad about that he blocked that no trade, his no trade, kicked in and blocked that trade to Carolina for Mikko at the time. And now they're saying, well, he blocked it. That was all his right, but then he came and gave this performance, and they really have nothing to show for it. Now he's going to walk for nothing. I do believe he's walking for nothing. I do believe he's.
It just feels inevitable, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
even from his standpoint, I know he's a hometown kid and whatnot, and I'm sure at least at one point playing for the Maple Leafs was a dream come true. It's maybe kind of been more like a living nightmare with how the whole process has played out, over the last 8-9 years. But it's just it opens you up to criticism when you continually come up short time and time again, and you could see it in their eyes, right? Like even early in that matchup, I think through the first 2 periods, they weren't all like shots on goal, but Florida had 75 recorded shots or something absurd like that. The game flipped in a hurry when they scored those 3 goals in the 6-minute stretch there in the second period, and they really took command of it. But you could feel it coming long before that. And I don't know, like it's obviously a little bit tongue in cheek, but I almost feel like they would have, like we said, would have had a more competitive chance if the game would have been in Florida. If all 7 games were in Florida, would Toronto have had a better chance to win the series than if, 4 of them were on their home ice? Like, I know it's kind of a silly podcast question to ask, but you could see it in Game 5 and Game 7. Like the lights are bright. You could tell how much they were feeling that pressure, and then they just get the shit kicked out of them. You get outscored 12-2 in those 2 games.
I'm from there, meaning I'm from Montreal, which is the same thing. Montreal, Toronto, I would say that the most 2 scrutinized, slash teams by the fan base and by the media. I don't think there's anything wrong with cheering for your team. I think it's awesome. So I'll never say that's on the fans for cheering for their team.
Oh, the passion's great, but it's intense.
The passion's great. Yeah, no, you're right. And then as far as the media, well, yeah, I mean this, I'm from there. That's what I'm saying, the Montreal market, and I've seen it, when guys, the way they've handled the media or the fans, and if you go with a confrontational approach, it's not going to work. And I just feel that those Toronto guys there, I'm talking about the players, not the coach, the management. I think they do a great job, those guys. But those guys, the core guys, whatever you want to call that, I do feel that they're confrontational a little bit. You can see it in their interviews. There's a little bit of,
Is that insecurity, do you feel like?
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's they're tired of it over the year. I don't know, which for me, it's like, well, you need a rude awakening because that's what pays your bills and that's what pays everything, right? It's the media, it's the fans, and at the end of the day, it's part of it. And you've been in markets where no one knows who you are, and they stop you, like you did in Dallas, where they won't let you in the building. It's the same thing. It happens all the time for players. You know what I mean? And it won't happen in Toronto or Montreal. I can tell you that. They don't get stopped. Those guys. They know who they are, and it's crazy. And it's some sort of responsibility that goes with that. With that said, I just feel they're, like I said, confrontational a little bit, and that doesn't work. And I think it's a little bit of like some smirks or whatever it is. You're kind of looking at them, and so it's kind of fake. And at the end of the day, it comes with the territory. That's why you're making a certain amount of money. That's why you're playing for that city. That's why it's passionate. That's why it's awesome. So I do believe that they do need a change. I do believe that they will make a change. I was shocked that they stuck with last year. They didn't make a change. Again, easier for me to say it right here. I don't know. Maybe they had some cooking. I don't know. But at the end of the day, none of the core, none of the meat was changed. And you saw the same results. Easier for me to say. Kind of knew that's what was going to happen. It's been going on for 8 years, right? Or you or me, or, maybe they had in mind. They had the mindset to change something and it didn't. Or maybe they weren't able to, or maybe they tried. It sounds like they tried at the deadline because it leaked, that they had asked Marner to waive his no trade, uh, for a
Well,
Carolina
and
trade.
Elliotte Friedman on his podcast this morning said that Toronto, and they didn't make it clear if this was when Mikko was with Colorado or with Carolina, and we can get in this later because it's a segment that'll derail us, but
Yeah.
they mentioned that Toronto could have traded Matthew Knies for Mikko and passed up on that. It's like there are a couple of potential moves that could have happened at some point, but
Yeah.
ultimately it ended up being that same core, and obviously it ended up being the same result again. And obviously, if you're an Avs fan sitting here and you're on the side of skepticism, this is what you don't want to happen in Colorado, where you lean into something for too long, and then all of a sudden, years go by and by. How long can you stick with a core? I mean, Toronto, they gave them a good 8-9 years, but they never did anything. Like the Avs won a
No.
championship. It's not a perfect comparison.
No, I mean, you win, you win. For me, you get years, you bypass some time. You know what I mean? You can, reload, or I think the Avs are in that window, and it's getting frustrating, as we saw a few weeks ago. It's getting frustrating because now this is 3 years in a row where you're not getting success. Where you get out last year, the first round, but that's about it. As far as success goes for the Avalanche the last 3 years. Now, with those guys, it's I mean, you feel it. You see it in their eyes. You see it in their answers. You see it in their demeanor. All you're going to see now is Mitch Marner in the second period after the 3 goals in 6 minutes yelling at the team, which, it's not a good look, you know what I mean? And you can read lips and, wake the
But
F
that's the
up. And
lasting image you're left with. Like that's what
that's what you're,
we'll
yeah.
remember.
And people are like, okay, that's great. If you're actually, flying, you can try to wake your teammates up. But, at the end of the day, he wasn't really playing good hockey. He's not playing productive hockey. Is he a productive player? Yeah, he's a 100-point guy. But at the end of the day, anybody in this league, managers, coaches, players, you don't get paid to, well, you do, but at the end of the day, you get judged on your success in playoffs. And you don't get judged for 100 points during the regular season. Is someone going to sign him to 13, 14 million bucks? Absolutely. Absolutely. He's going to get signed for that. Now, would I do it? After what I saw, probably not. I'd look for something else. I just haven't seen it. Now, can he do it in a different market? I don't know. You know what I mean? Is it the Toronto market? You would think that, again, I've seen firsthand Montreal Canadiens 1993. And again, young man, I'm looking at this and it's that pressure of those guys in the market, and they did it. It's the greatest thing in the world. And you'll never take that away from them. But those guys, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if it's just the market or is it just who they are as leaders. You know what I mean? And obviously, I don't think
Yeah,
that they are
is it
leaders.
symptomatic of what the franchise is,
Yeah,
or is it these guys
yeah,
individually? I mean, Toronto struggles. They do predate
yeah.
this core as much as we focus on them. You can go back 20 years, and I think they got 2 postseason series wins. I saw a stat, and I wish I had written it down so I could credit whoever tweeted it. But going back to the lockout, the Buffalo Sabres, who haven't made the postseason in 14 years, they've won 4 playoff series. That's twice as many as Toronto.
No, it's crazy. Like, hey, listen, it's crazy, and you need a shakeup. You can't just keep going with what you've done. Obviously they changed the coach last year. I think AWOL's talking about it there. AWOL or a Wolfix, whatever you want to call it. Sorry for
Shout out to the
messing
Toyota
up.
chat.
Yes, and then I agree. I thought Berube would be a guy to get them going. Um, as it hasn't happened. You know what I mean? And that's when you shake your head a little bit. At some point, like you gotta look at yourself in the mirror if you're one of those guys. But then again, they've made a lot of money. They're raised in that market. I don't know. Maybe you think that that's just not on you. I don't know. But unfortunately, I mean, it's not there. I don't think it will be there. You will not see. I'm going to use that word that everybody's using, the core four. You won't see that core four in September for that team. There's going to be some changes, and obviously one's going to walk because he's a UFA, right, Marner. Is there more? I would do more. I mean, I would do more because at the end of the day, I've seen enough for me to say it's not going to work. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to see it, and then you just have to go with your convictions that you're right. You've seen enough, and you can make those decisions.
It's a tough day to be a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. I think we can leave it at
Yeah,
that. I woke up as bummed as I was about the Nuggets, as bummed as I was to have the Nuggets and Avalanche go out in Game 7 and
yeah.
series they could do woulda, coulda, shoulda for a long time because they had their chances. I was like, man, at least I'm not a Maple Leafs fan. We've got plenty to dive into still here, so stick around with us. Give us a thumbs up if you're listening on YouTube. Real quick, let's shout out our partners, and we'll keep this fun rolling. All right, I want to start by talking about our friends over at Game Time. Nobody makes it easier to get tickets to your favorite sporting events, concerts. I bought in stand-up comedy tickets through Game Time. They've got all kinds of great stuff. The NFL schedule is here. I'm already planning out my fall. The Broncos have got some awesome home games. With exclusive discounts, you can find great seats for as low as $100. What's great about using Game Time is, unlike some of the other apps, you're not going to get hit with a bunch of late fees at the end. You think you're getting a great deal, and then you get hit with all these convenience fees. The price you see is the price you get. Plus, the Game Time guarantee means you can trust you'll get 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price. You can get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy. And with the lowest price guarantee, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find tickets for cheaper, same section, same row. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms to apply. Again, create an account, redeem that code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. It's smelly season, y'all. You got to put your deodorant on. If you're going out, if you're going to be in public, you got to do the right thing. And you got to cover that stench. I don't care who you are. When we get to June, when we get to July, it's just stinky season. It's part of the deal, especially in Colorado. You know, when you get in those high 90s type days. What's awesome about Mando is this is a way to keep every single aspect of your body smelling nice. We're not just talking your standard underarm deodorant. We're talking whole body deodorant you can put on your butt, your balls, your pits, anywhere that gets stinky. They've got all kinds of awesome scent options that are geared towards men. Bourbon leather, Cloverwoods, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport. I'm more of a Pro Sport kind of guy. Just keep it simple. It was created by a doctor who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. And with Mando's men's starter pack, it's a great way to try out all kinds of stuff. You can get solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, plus a couple of free products like the mini body wash and deodorant wipes. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers can get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use that code DNVR at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. We're going to get to the conversation here shortly with Cole Eiserman and Max LaCroix, which I'm looking forward to. Do you have any thoughts on Dallas before we get to that convo?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of amazing that you got Dallas, Edmonton again, in a rematch of last year's. It's an accomplishment to get to the Final Four. It is in the National Hockey League, and again, I know we always say cup or bust, but once you get to the Final Four, at least you're like, okay, we were one series away from whatever it is, the mountaintop, or there's 32 teams, so there's 28 other teams that envy you. So Dallas, obviously getting Heiskanen back, getting Robertson back, Ottinger's finding, his groove, and he's really finding he can steal games right now. Amico, as we saw, can take over periods. I'm not going to say games, I'll go periods because he's been unbelievable in some of those periods. So Dallas is, I think they're built for this. They're built for the playoffs. Have they escaped it? Yes. Like, could they have been done against Colorado or even, Winnipeg at times? Yes. But they
That's a
make
great
plays at the
question.
right
Is
time.
this style sustainable, especially as you're playing now the best teams in the world? And we'll get into
Yeah.
some of the preview stuff, but That's probably
which
the
is
biggest
nice for him.
question mark for me.
Yeah, Heiskanen's back, which makes a big difference now that you're facing obviously Draisaitl and McDavid. Not that the Avs weren't dangerous. I'm saying now that as you get deeper and deeper, and the stakes are higher and higher, and then the fatigue gets in. You're not in the first round anymore. You're in the third round. Harley is elevated his game where he's becoming an all-star in this league, and he closes out the series with that play there in overtime. So, hey, opportunities, right? Heiskanen's been gone. He elevates his game. He becomes a superstar. Now you got Heiskanen back. So now you're a different team than you were, where, Harley was just Harley, where now you're looking at superstar Harley. There's a big difference. And then you're going to take on Draisaitl McKinnon. Sorry, McKinnon. Draisaitl McDavid. Very similar to, obviously, Makar and McKinnon. And, they've been able to do that and quiet down, the Winnipeg Jets. Now this is a different animal, with McDavid and Draisaitl and Bouchard. That's very productive in the playoffs with that Bouch bomb there. But we'll see. I mean, I do think Dallas gets through because I have to stick to my comment that whoever was coming out of the first round was going to the finals. So, and I still believe it, and I still stick to it. It was, we all know that. Hats off to the Dallas Stars, but it was a tough first round. It's a first round that didn't make sense, for both teams, actually. For people around the world, they thought it was great hockey, which we did too, but
yeah, I mean, it was a great competitive product. It's just a shame that one of the true contenders is gone.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I mean, I'm going to stick with we'll talk about it in our predictions, but I'll stick with Dallas. And I'm going to stick with the champs, Florida. And I know Carolina's been great and everything, and they're going to swarm them, but Florida can swarm you too. So I'm going to stick to Dallas, Florida for the finals. That's my thoughts.
What about Winnipeg? This was a season where they wanted to kind of get to the next level. They did win the division. They obviously had a tremendous regular season. They're going to have an MVP. I mean, is this a successful season for them? I mean, obviously everybody wants to win a Stanley Cup, but is the standard for the Winnipeg Jets in 2025 the same as, the Colorado Avalanche or the Dallas Stars, some of these other teams? Just what are your thoughts on them big picture?
Well, big picture, I mean, small market team, right? And not able to attract the free agents, but they do attract their own guys like 2 years ago, right? When Hellebuyck and Scheifele signed their long-term deals there to stay there, not test free agency. Had an unbelievable record in the regular season. And a little bit like Toronto, a little bit like what we talk about all the time, their core being, Scheifele, Hellebuyck, and mainly Hellebuyck. He's in the finalist for the Hart, finalist for the Vezina. Can he do it in the playoffs? Well, if you look purely on stats and on the eye test, he wasn't good at all. Like on the road this postseason, he was atrocious. And when your best player is putting up those types of performance, it's tough to win. I don't like to blame one guy, but he's their guy. You know what I mean? And he's their guy. Just like us, it's McKinnon, Makar. This is their guy. And then, hats off to, our Mark Scheifele, and obviously his loss. That was so sad. And, our thoughts and prayers are with his family, obviously, as a beat here and as a fan base here at the DNVR Avalanche. But what a, man, I mean, that was so sad to watch. But he's part of their core, and, obviously, and with Hellebuyck, and then you got Morrissey and things like that. We'll see. We'll see what these guys are. What can they do? You know what I mean? What can Chevy do? The GM there, Kevin Shoveldayoff. I don't, you can't say that the season's a failure. I mean, I think that they put up some records and, NHL records, but ultimately you need some wins in the playoffs, and unfortunately for them, their top guy, their key guy, Hellebuyck, for me was not, again, for the second year in a row. He put up some great performances at home, but on the road, it doesn't make sense. His numbers at home and his numbers on the road are absolutely upside down. It doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So can you do it? I don't know. It's maybe the same thing as the Mariners and Matthews. And can you do it? That's for them to decide,
Yeah, I mean, I think if I'm a Winnipeg fan, I recognize that it was a really fun season and that they accomplished a lot of great things. I also would probably in the back of my mind be thinking the Avs and the Stars are great. Whoever we were going to face in that next matchup was going to be tough. How often are we going to have home ice advantage in this gauntlet of a division? You know, like you're only going to have so many opportunities, and especially like you said, when your best player is kind of maybe not, he wasn't a train wreck, like he played pretty well in this last game, didn't give up a ton of goals or anything like that,
Yeah, yeah.
but like I just guess I just would be asking myself, are we going to be set up any better than this? Like it feels like this was a great opportunity if we were going to do something here. We had home ice, we have an MVP in net, and if he can't live up to the moment in this setting and we can't capitalize on this opportunity we have here as, you know, the one, then I don't know, like is there really going to be a better opportunity than the one we just had?
Well, yeah, I know, and I agree, and I agree with the chat there, Missouri. Like, what do you do if he does this all the time? Because we were just talking in the first segment there about the failure year in and year out of that core four in Toronto. You know what I mean? And I hate that word, but I'm using the word core four. And it's like after a certain amount of times, it's like,
This is
what are
who
we
he
doing
is.
here? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what are we doing here? Like, this is what we have. They can't do it. It's the same thing that comes down with Hellebuck. And at the international level, like, did this cost us job? You know what I mean? Maybe at the Olympics next year. Maybe. I mean, I'm a coach today. I start Andre. I don't start him. And the guy's the best goalie in the NHL. Hellebuck. I'm not debating this. He is. He's going to win the Vezina hands down. Like he might win the Hart. But you're talking about pressure cooker, pressure moments. I don't know. Maybe I take Hottinger and not him. And this is where it's going. This is the trend right now. And you're right. Like, wow, what can you do if you're the Winnipeg Jets now? Where do you go from there? You just kind of run it back again, and I don't know. Maybe that's what they're going to do. I don't know. We don't work for the Winnipeg Jets. You know what I mean? Like, but and it's kind of hard not to. The guy was the MVP of the season and the best goalie of the season. So it's like, what? But ultimately, like I said in the first segment, we get judged as teams on your performance in the postseason, and that's just the way it is. So can they do it? I don't know. Would I bet my money on it? No, probably not, because I don't believe like Toronto. I don't believe that they can. Led by Hellebuck, obviously. But they have a nice team, and I mean the Perfettis of the world, and Kyle Connor, what a freaking awesome hockey player! Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean, they have some studs there. I mean, it's a great place. I'm a big Kevin Shoveldayoff fan. Scott Arniel, I thought, did a great job. I think he was complimented by Pete DeBoer saying that those guys, were so prepared to Winnipeg Jets. You can tell it's because they're well coached and the habits of that. It's started with Rick Bowness years ago, and obviously moved on to Arniel and their core and their stuff. But you got to make plays at the right time, and they just didn't make enough plays. It's kind of like Dallas, like Mikko. Sometimes you pull your hair with him and he frustrates you, but he makes plays at the right time. He makes plays when the pressure is hard, it's hot, and he likes it. You know what I mean? And some guys thrive on it, and some guys fold. So for the Winnipeg Jets, I think that's for them to figure out, just like the Toronto Maple Leafs, who can make plays, who folds, and what can we do about it, if anything. You know what I mean? The thing is, maybe there is
Yeah.
nothing you can do. You know what I mean? With the
Well, when you
salary
throw
cap
in the
they're on.
context of being a smaller market team on top of that and being just having less options, you know, in terms of free agency, and I don't know, like it's hard to say we can do better than statistically in the regular season, at least better than the best goalie in the NHL. There are just some weird things in sports.
But
I don't
I
really
but I
know how to
agree with
explain
Chuck.
it other than that.
I agree with Chuck Fee there. And it's a great example. Like when is it too early that you give up on someone, and when is it too late? And Bob Roski, I would have told you back then, what are they doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are they doing, Florida, given that big contract to Bobrovsky, and then he had one of
That's a
Vezina,
good
and
point.
was it in Columbus and whatever. And next thing you know, I'm like, wow, he's atrocious. He couldn't stop a puck. And then all of a sudden, for me, you're talking about the best clutch goalie in the league right now. Sergei Bobrovsky by far. I don't want to hear Vasilevsky. He's lost his edge the last few years. His numbers are atrocious, and the eye test is atrocious. So Bobrovsky is a great example by Chuck Feeder.
Passes the eye test for sure. We're going to play that conversation. Let's shout out a couple of our partners real quick. And then after the combo, we'll react to everything we hear, set the scene a little bit for the conference finals, all kinds of fun stuff. Get ready for the season ahead with quality shades built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with premium polarized shades that won't break the bank. Shady Rays, they're an independent sunglasses company, but they offer a world-class product rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. They've got styles for everyone. If you're looking for more like an outdoor shade, something you can wear on the go, if you're into hiking, biking, all that Colorado stuff, Shady Rays has got you covered. If you just want something sleek to wear out on the town, they've got a lot of great options. I personally have multiple pairs of Shady Rays, wear them everywhere. They're durable, they're extremely high quality. I love the lenses. And like I said, they're bound to have something for you, probably even in multiple color options. Exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out the best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com, use that code DNVR for 35% off polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself the shades rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people. I also want to shout out Empire Today. Just like your favorite team needs home court home ice advantage, I should say, your home needs a home floor advantage, and Empire Today can help you get there. Empire has a knowledgeable people. They don't try to overwhelm you with aisles and aisles of choices. So many big box stores, you go over there and it's just overwhelming. You've got 800 choices. You don't know what's what. Empire, they're not trying to overwhelm you. They're not trying to show you 10 million different substitutes. They're just trying to find you the best of the best, and they're trying to make the process as simple as they can. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DNVR listeners can get a $350 discount when using the promo code DNVR. You heard that right. $350 discount when you use that code DNVR with Empire Today. Restrictions to apply. Visit EmpireToday/DNVR for full details. All right, we have a great conversation here. Eric was able to catch up with the Islanders' top prospect, somebody that the LaCroix know well, tons of Boston ties. I'm looking forward to this. Shout out to our guy Nathan Rudolph, a.k.a. Rudo. Just landed safely. Love to hear that. Can't wait to have him back on the podcast for the rest of the week. But let's get to that conversation here.
All right, here we are with a couple college hockey players. Obviously, I talk about my Terriers all the time. Sorry, Denver Pioneers. Chat, we have a lot of fans there with Denver Pioneers, but my heart belongs to the BU Terriers. I should have gone there in college back then. I messed up. No big deal. Cole Eiserman, my son Max, you guys know him. So here we are. I just wanted to take a few minutes today and talk a little bit about, you know, growing up in two different backgrounds, Cole, hockey hotbed, Massachusetts, Max, not trying to downplay, but Denver, Colorado is not a unique hockey place. So talk to us a little bit where you grew up and, where you played your youth hockey in Colorado. And we'll do the same thing with Cole in Massachusetts.
Yeah, so I started out playing for the Arapahoe Warriors, and kind of like my dad said, there's not a ton of programs compared to Massachusetts, and I didn't really realize that until I came out here for high school. But yeah, played for the Arapahoe Warriors, and then that was during squirts, and then we ended up moving to Vegas. So I played in Vegas, which is an even smaller hockey community,
That's right.
where there's only one team. So I was there, Pee-wees and Bantams. And then we moved back to Colorado. I played for the Littleton Hawks for my U14 year. And then my 15s and 16s year, I played for the Colorado Thunderbirds. And after that, I ended up going to prep school out in Boston. And that's kind of what got me the connection to BU. But yeah, that's when I realized that there are a lot more programs out in Massachusetts, like Izzy will talk about. But
yeah, I'm not that much of a suitcase, but I honestly played for one team. I played for my local growing up,
Yeah.
like for like a couple of years, probably just my local, Newburyport, a little like Mites, and then played 7 years with the Middlesex Islanders. Played up there until I was ready to go on to Shattuck, where I had my high school.
So basically, what leads me to that is, when did you realize like youth hockey was going to take you maybe to college hockey?
Yeah.
And was that at that age right there with the
Yeah,
Islanders?
yeah, definitely. I have a couple older brothers
Yep.
that they were playing college hockey. They're a lot older than me, so
Yep.
I kind of knew that I wanted to do that. They knew went through the paths for me, so I kind of knew if I wanted to play college hockey, I had to play in that league for those teams, and I love playing for the Islanders, and that's kind of the path I needed to.
Pretty ironic, because Cole's a first rounder to the New York Islanders, so
Yeah,
maybe it was meant to be.
Yeah, that
right?
was
It was
weird,
meant to
yeah.
be. And then obviously you going to Newburyport, where Cole's from, actually is where Max went to prep school, same town, right
Yep.
next to it, Byfield,
Yep.
Mass. So
Yeah, so I mean, I ran that town for a couple of years.
I liked it.
But yeah, a little different. I never really thought about college when I was younger. Being like in Colorado, I would go to DU games, and I always thought it was cool, but I never really like thought about myself being there. In the future, it was more just enjoying it and just wanting to get to the next level and always wanting to get better. And I always knew that I always felt that I was good enough to play at the next level. And then once I got to Governors, which is in Newburyport, that prep school, that's when I really like started to think about college, and because that's when that process really starts. So that's when I really wanted to be like, okay, like my dreams to play college hockey. And so I was a little later than Izzy, and not everyone's a program kid, so he kind of figured it out a little earlier than I did, but everyone's got different paths. So.
yeah, and then you grew up obviously in the Avalanche locker room of the NHL with your grandpa and myself and all the guys, and which is nice. And Cole's a little different, but then you took that path. Talk to us a little bit about the national team development. That was really something special for you. Obviously, 2 years there. And how does it work? And a young man like that going to Michigan, and how does it work?
Yeah, so it was always a dream of mine. My brother played there, so I always wanted to.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, my brother I always wanted to play there growing up, just from all the really, really good players. And then you get there, and then whatever team you're on, you're usually the best player for the kids that are there. And you get there, and it's super competitive. Your first year is the development year, so you're really just working out, skating all day, every day. But it's competitive because everyone wants to be the best. Everyone wants to earn a spot, because it's tough. It's 4 lines of skill guys, and some guys got to play different roles. And then you go into your 18 year, and you kind of start to figure it out. You're trying to play colleges. You're a lot bigger, stronger than you were when you were 16. So it's starting to figure it out. Trying to get better for the next college season coming up.
I like it. And then obviously breaking the record last year of Austin Matthews, you know what I mean? Was that something that you were looking at, or was that something you were looking forward to, or is that something that just came about?
Yeah, I didn't.
I mean, like, fair question.
Honestly, like I didn't expect much.
Yeah.
I was just there, so happy to kind of be there, and then ended up having a good 17s year. And then that summer, it started kind of getting brought up a little bit more about the record part of it and blah blah blah. And, there's a lot of noise that 18s year with that stuff and the draft and stuff like that, and ended up getting it the last game. It was something that I thought would be pretty cool for myself, and it was I love scoring goals, and so it was nice to be able to get it. But it's something that was a lot of noise, and it took a lot. But
I remember watching it, to be honest with you, and I didn't know you, and I was rooting for you, and it was kind of cool when you got it. So, but obviously, you guys are at BU, high profile program, kind of like in Denver, the DU Pioneers. So Boston University, big thing, and high profile guys like yourself, Cole Hudson, and guys from the program, right? That's at the Joe P kind of does a good job in recruiting, and then and I'm not, again, that's my son, I love him, I'm not downplaying anything I'm saying, but you have different types of what makes a team, you know what I mean? Then you have Max that's trying to carve his way in a different way. And what was it like this year, getting your first win and making a start and leaving a mark right now in the program?
Yeah, I mean, not everyone's like the sexy pick, right?
That's right.
So, I'm being a goalie too. I don't know why my dad let me do that, but just being a goalie, being smaller too. I'm definitely on the smaller side. Like you look at Yegorov, which is my goalie partner. He's what, 6'5", 6'6".
Yeah.
Second round, he was the second goalie taken in the draft last year to New Jersey.
After Nabokov, which Avalanche fans are, last year, obviously that was a big pick for the Avs faithful. So
yeah, should have picked Yegorov, but No, he's special, but yes, I mean it's a little different for me. Like, kind of as you get older, you kind of learn like what role you need to put yourself in, and like in terms of the Avs, just to kind of put in context, like I kind of look at Scott Wedgwood as like a guy like, okay, like that's someone that I could be in the future. He's played 15 years in the NHL, and he's just an awesome teammate. And every time he's called upon, he's solid. And that's something that I'm trying to do right now. Just always being ready. And sometimes you get thrown in there. I got thrown in there a few times this year. We were at North Dakota, which I know a lot of DU fans are, not very happy with those guys. Big rivalry, but played at North Dakota got thrown in the first period, and that atmosphere is insane. So just kind of like getting used to things like that, and I got my first win as well against UMass Lowell, and so just like those little goals and those little wins are really special, and just trying to work my way up and keep trying to play more games and just grinding it out, and most importantly, just trying to be a good teammate. This guy, make sure he's ready every game, and we got our routines and stuff like that, but.
Yeah, speaking of that, obviously a little bit of a disappointment last year, losing in the don't want to rub it in the national championship game, but then that probably kind of gives you a little motivation for this year, right? Coming up, but you being a second year guy now this year, and your rookie year's behind you, you had an outstanding year. You got the most goals I think ever at Agganis Arena, which is the home.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal of the BU Terriers, but when you think of all the history of players that have played here, it's pretty amazing. You know what I mean? So, and I know you got big. Expectations for yourselves as a team. So what are you guys looking for this year, starting with you, like of what you could do after losing that big game?
Yeah, I think I think last year we started pretty slow.
Yeah.
So to see where we kind of ended up was very special. Kind of take that year and bring it into the next year, obviously with a lot of ups and downs, and next year we're going to be a pretty young again, a lot of new guys. So it's one of those things where we're the young guys that want. It's nice for the younger guys to be on the like team that played on in the national championship game and stuff like that, to kind of bring that experience. But it's more of just, I think we gotta dial it in probably a little sooner. So when we get to those big games, we're ready to go, and but the experience is definitely gonna be huge.
Yeah, and then what was I going to say? I was going to say superstition wise, like this guy was raised by his grandpa and myself, so we got we're a little bit on the somewhere on the scale of like maybe deranged at times, when it comes down. So I think this year, I don't know if I know you're a little bit of this. I know we started the cookie thing this year. Just for Chad to know, I bought some cookies. Next thing you know, Cole had a big game. He had a big goal at Bean Pot. Next thing you know, what happened?
Yeah. So like my dad said, my family, we're pretty superstitious, especially when it comes to food, right? So, no offense.
Hey, that's wrong. Yes, come on.
No, I'm the same way. But so this year, we started going to this Italian restaurant. It's called Carlos. Awesome spot. It's right next to campus. Macklin Celebrini actually introduced it to me last year. Always getting his chicken parm with gnocchi and a vodka sauce. So then Shane LaChance started doing it, and then I kind of noticed, and I was like, oh, like I'll try that, and it looks good, and really liked it. And then coming into this year, I kind of threw out the idea to Izzy and our one of our roommates, Rook, to
the big fella.
Yeah, to go to Carlos in person and just kind of eat there the night before every game. So we started doing that. We brought Brandon Svoboda as well, and we had the same meal every time: our vodka, chicken parm with gnocchi, and me and Izzy would always get our Diet Cokes. Rook would get his Sprite. Boda would stick with his water. And got to the point where we would walk in and we wouldn't even have to order. The people would just have our chicken parms ready to go, and did the same time every time. It was always like about 7:15-ish. And after, we would go back to the dorm. We'd grab our cookies that my dad dropped off from earlier that morning. Thanks, Dad. And then we'd watch a movie, try to be something inspiring. But Rook would always pick the movie, so sometimes it was all right, but
you can't. The big fella's not here to defend himself.
Same thing before every game, so we stuck with it. Izzy had a huge goal, and we just we were like, all right, we got to stick with it all the way through, and brought us to a pretty good spot. But
yeah,
Maybe we need a small adjustment for next year. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, you guys went to Ireland last year. You guys played in the Bean Pot, obviously national championship game. So pretty successful season, and hopefully you win the big one this year. So it starts in the summer. I know you guys are here all summer, and talk a little bit about this and how does it work and how is that good for team chemistry with the new guys, especially guys from the program. You guys, like I said, BU turns go to kids from the program. How does that work for the summertime for now being veterans on this team?
Yeah, it's nice. Definitely last year, because when you're at the program, I know we have some guys coming in next year, like even transfers, whatever. But for the program guys, like you're coming in, you've been up with kids the same age, like you don't really know how to. It's a little different. Like you're not having really like a class type of thing. Everyone kind of is pretty even. Like then you come here and then you got to respect the older guys a lot more. You got to be that freshman. You kind of learn that pretty quick, to respect those older guys, listen to them. But the older guys last year were great for me, so I'm gonna try to be like that for the freshmen coming in. But it's great. We're here for like a month in the summer, working out, getting better, trying to get to know each other, and then by the end of it, we're pretty close. So it's awesome, and especially for the transfers, I'm sure it's gonna be great for them. Just kind of new team, new guys, and can kind of start to build something.
Couple more things too, like obviously different paths and high profile first round pick, New York Calendars, now that don't have a GM. Your goal is obviously to play in the NHL. Your goal is to play in the NHL. Every kid's goal should be playing in the NHL, right? As a young man. What are your thoughts this year going into the season, knowing that this could be maybe your last year? Who knows? I'm not putting, do you have expectations and do you think about like the New York Calendars, what's next?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely on my mind. You never know with, how the year's gone or stuff like that. I think I kind of just take whatever, the Islanders tell me to get better at and try to get better at those things. And, whether it's next year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, I'm going to try to be as ready as I can. And they do a great job helping me out. Pando, the coaches are here that are awesome. I trust them. I'm still a young kid too, so it's nice. Still 18. It's a lot of, I don't really want, Tom Wilson to take my head off right now. Maybe get a little bigger, stronger, see what happens. But, it's definitely on my mind. I think it should be for everyone to try to kind of have a goal like that, especially that big. So
it's funny how everybody's got different goals. Same thing for you, different goals. You want to get in more this year and go down. Obviously, we always talk with Avalanche Nation, they're free agents and, college free agents, obviously two separate paths. You missed on the draft, obviously, and then maybe potentially that's something you look forward to in a few years.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, goalies take a lot longer to develop. You look at rookie goaltenders being more like 24, 25 years old. So it's a little different from, guys that are 18 years old like Macklin and Bedard and, Izzy will be pretty young too once he gets there. And so it's a lot different. But yeah, so in terms of college, like you'll look at a lot of goalies like becoming the starter more like their junior and senior year rather than coming in their freshman year and kind of taking over. Mike's obviously an exception. I mean, he's very special and he's a stud for sure. And so it's a little different, for guys like me, it takes a lot longer. And I'm pretty like physical wise, like pretty immature as well. So like I gotta get more mature in that aspect as well. And
mentally too.
No. But yes, I mean, once you get to senior year, that's kind of when a lot of teams will start to look at you and be watching, as you play more games as well. And it's very common for, like, you look at Matt Davis to sign after your senior year and go play some games in the American League, even the East Coast League as well. And then you just kind of work your way up from there. But it just takes time, and you just got to make sure you're patient and you don't get frustrated those first couple of years in your freshman, sophomore year as you're not playing as much, and just keep working and just always being ready for your opportunity. And then eventually, once you get older, you kind of take over that role and continue to play more games and, sign. The dream obviously is to sign with a team after your senior year, and there's different paths. So.
All right. And then in honor of our good buddy Rudo, that's obviously taking some personal time right now, personal situation. He always asks people that comes on our show, weird food takes. For example, he likes to put mayonnaise on his burritos. I put cheese on everything. I don't care if it's sushi, whatever. What is your weird food take?
I put ranch on my pasta.
All right, Rudo, we got one. We got a weird one. We're good.
That's my pregame meal is ranch on my pasta and salad and salmon. So
all right, that's fair
mix
enough.
it all together.
Fair enough.
Call him ranch in his hair too.
They did that.
Yeah.
That was like my nickname with the World Junior team.
I mean, we had the weirdest one. Kyle Quincy was tuna fish with yogurt, but whatever.
Yeah, that's pretty odd.
Kind of give you that,
Yeah, puts ranch in his hair. Took his hat off.
You got no?
I don't know. I like to think I'm pretty normal with my food. I put ranch on like sausage. If that's weird.
No, that's not weird.
Not weird.
All right, you're fine. Only weird. Only Rudo's bad.
That's a little weird.
Maple syrup and rice pudding. I don't know if that's weird.
No, that's
like
excellent.
One of my favorite desserts.
That's excellent. All right, well, fellas, thank you very much. Wish you the best of luck, obviously, with what's coming up next year, and we'll go from there.
Thank you.
Big shout out to those guys. Really fun conversation with Cole Eiserman, obviously the Islanders' top prospect, and good old Max LaCroix. I'm going to be honest, hearing Rudo puts mayonnaise on his burrito has me shook. That's all I can think of now from a really great interview. So that shook me to my core. Yeah, but you wanted to talk about development. Obviously, these guys have kind of, some different paths, and they touched on that. Everybody's path to the NHL isn't the same. Some of these guys, they go, straight to the league, and they never skip a beat like Nathan MacKinnon. But there's also those guys that grind it out, and, maybe it takes a couple years in college, and then it takes a couple years in the AHL, and then they find themselves, in a fortuitous position. Where do you want to take this, E?
Yeah, and it's funny. That's why I thought it was pertinent. Those two are good buddies, and obviously two totally different path to get to where they are, and to keep going, obviously, in their ascension and to get to their dreams. And Cole being a high profile, I call that a sexy prospect, right? And Max, it's more like, the goal is probably a guy like Matt Davis, right? You know what I mean? The goaltender from DU, which is wait for your opportunity when you get it, and, a bit older, and you take advantage of it. Where Cole, it's you break the record for most goals at the national team development from Austin Matthews of all people, and you're a high profile pick. You start the season last year ranked second behind Celebrini. Celebrini goes 1, and Cole slips to 20. You know what I mean? So, for all the reasons, right? Whatever the reasons are, and what it does now, it's like, okay, now you have a prospect that's got a chip on the shoulder, right? Because he wants to prove the other 19, people or 18, that they were wrong not to take him. And it's funny because I get him going all the time on that, and it's fun. But AJ will call him the one that got away, right? He really thought he'd be an Av, or it could have been an Av, and but the Avs decided, as we know, to drop down in the draft, and to go to the second round and pick Nabokov. And ironically, it's Nabokov was the second ranked goalie, right? Who was the number 1 goalie? Michael Yegorov, which is Max's partner at BU. So it's funny. It all ties in, and it's funny because it's like it's just one big mishmush of sweet potato, mashed potato, whatever you want to call it, and it's in there, so it's kind of fun. So at the end of the day, yeah, I mean, you're talking about development, and now with the CHL rule and all those Canadian, or whatever you want to call that, CHL guys that played in the WHL or OHL or Quebec League now can go to college, where before all those years you couldn't do that. So now you're seeing a bunch of two things: high profile, soon to be first round picks that are, that were going to go in the OHL or WHL. Now they're like, oh, maybe I'm going to go to Michigan State, Michigan, BU, whatever, DU, whatever you want to call that. So you didn't have that. So some teams are looking and keeping stuff like that, like spaces.
Do you like that? Because I think from an entertainment standpoint and growing it's good, but it's obviously less opportunities for other guys.
Yeah, I don't like it, but you do like it because the level of play is going to be outstanding. You know what I mean? But I don't like it for one reason. The rules are really not in place. So you really don't know what can be done and can't be done. And there's even some guys that are not eligible, and you're like, why aren't they eligible? So it's kind of wide open. There's a lot of gray area, and people, I don't know what the patterns are. So it's a little different. So it's going to be a little weird this year. And I think some teams will take advantage of it, absolutely, as you should, because it's a recruiting tool, and you have a bunch of other great hockey players now in your pool to go make your team stronger. So we'll see what happens, and I feel that, or some team, or some kids that that we're going to be. There's so many things with the rules of the NHL and the CBA, and if the kids, they were supposed to be signed by a certain date. Now they're not signed, but then now they're going to college. Now do you still own their rights? And I mean, there's a lot of things that, you don't even think about. All they did was, the judge ruled that that thing doesn't exist anymore, so guys can come in and out as they want.
Well, we're seeing it in college basketball too. You've got guys that are playing in high-level professional leagues overseas, and now because of NIL and other things, like there's a real financial incentive. Yeah, I'll come cash 6-7 figures and I'll play for UCLA. It's just interesting how these have changed the dynamics of the pre-pro process, and I don't know, almost the strip down of the amateurization process. Like it's all close to professional sports at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And then again, it's all new. It's all gray area. So you'll see what works next year. You'll see what doesn't work. But it still doesn't change anything for the Avalanche and their development path of some guys. And you're still going to see the Taylor McCarrs, or that are taking more time than a Kel McCarr. Actually, that actually took his time, or someone that just jumps in. Nathan McKinnon. Where he's drafted, he's on the team. You're seeing it with the Cole Eisermans that we just talked to. Same thing. He's projected to be second overall last year, slides to 20, goes to BU, going back to BU this year, another year, going back to World Juniors. Obviously, Team USA had some sort of success, obviously, the last few years, and he should be a prominent player there on that team this year. And then, probably move on to the pros by March or April next year, right? And, doesn't have a GM now, doesn't have, all that kind of stuff. But, yeah, I mean, college hockey is fascinating right now, like I said, with all the rules. And I think the NHL is following that up closely, and I think that you're talking about development for the Avalanche. Not a lot of draft picks right now. Not a lot of draft picks coming this year unless they make trades and go pick up picks. But they're going to have to turn to go and make sure their pool is strong of going to get those talented guys that slip through the cracks, that somewhere, somehow were overlooked, and then jump and get on those guys, because that's going to be the path a little bit that we've seen the last couple of years with the Avalanche. Or even the Ivan Ivans of the world that, not drafted in CHLs, but invites and then earn a contract. So we will see. And then I want to take 2 minutes to shout out Tiff before we, our producer Tiff's awesome. It's her birthday today, and I think that we wish her the best of birthdays. Awesome. We wouldn't be here without her. She is our savior. She makes everything work for us. It's certainly not me that does that, or Rudo, or AJ, or J Mike, even though those three are a lot more capable than I am. But Tiff's there. Tiff's behind everything, and we wish her a best of birthdays. And I'm sure that she will have a blast today. She is just a happy-go-lucky lady, so she's awesome.
My birthday wish is for more likes on this stream, so get those up.
Much love to Tiff. Huge birthday shout out to her. By the way, we're about to head to overtime. So if you're watching on TV, head over to thednvr.com. Don't have much left in today's podcast, which has been action-packed. Again, Rudo will be back tomorrow, so you'll be hearing those typical voices that you are used to. I've had a blast filling in. I will be back throughout the offseason as well. Just briefly, because you guys are going to have plenty of time to go in-depth on these series, but we did tease it, so let's touch just a little bit on our feelings on Edmonton, Dallas, Florida, Carolina going in. You already said earlier you're sticking with Dallas and your prediction. Florida, Carolina, though, maybe a little bit surprised that Carolina is a slight favorite in the series, just given how Florida's playing. But that might be recency bias too, just given that Florida's fresh in my mind and watching them just maul Toronto last night. I'm like, damn, how would anyone pick against that group?
Well, I do believe it will be a slugfest. What I mean by that is it's got to be hard fought. Details of the game will be there on both sides. Both sides are not afraid to dump the puck and go get it and hit you and bruise you along the way. Freddie Anderson's been great in the pipes for Carolina. We always, he's injury prone guy. Knock on wood for him. You don't want him to get. I did knock on wood. You don't want him to get injured. So, but obviously, Bobrovsky is finding his groove right now. So there's a lot. The defending champs, the guys that are us against the world mentality after Rantanen kind of shunned them a little bit, and they use that as a little bit as, again, us against the world mentality. I think Brind'Amour played it in his cards right when it came down to that, and then they have guys that have been there for years and they know exactly what makes them successful and what doesn't. And then you can't forget, again, this is a Colorado podcast, can't forget about Colorado native Jacob Slavin. Arguably one of the best defensemen in the NHL. This is a guy you're talking about. He gets overlooked because he does not have the same offensive abilities as the Kales of the world. But when you're talking about shutting down and being on the right place and doing everything right, well, Jacob Slavin, this is a guy that doesn't. You know what I mean? So, again, I think this is going to be a tight one. I do believe... I don't know why I'm old school like that, but I'm sticking with the champs. I do believe that they come out on top. Well, this is going to be a dogfight, though. This is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, I'm with you. I just think Florida's rolling at the right time. I think they've got the pedigree, obviously, having been there, done that before. I am also excited to see the Colorado connections in that series. You got Colorado connects on both sides, I guess. So that'll be kind of cool. And again, we'll keep it brief before we get out of here. We know you're leaning Dallas. Edmonton, though, has the significant rest advantage, obviously, going into this series. What are your thoughts, though, on what is too much rest? Is that a thing? Like, is it a strength for Dallas to be in a rhythm and to, like, essentially get to keep that carrying over? Or do you just take that rest every single time? Yeah, we'll sit there for a week and let you guys duke it out.
I'm a believer in playoffs. You want to wrap series quick. I think that's to your advantage. You'll take the rest over the rust of 7-8 minutes of the first game back. If you can just keep it to even or better in those 7-8 minutes, then you're all set. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I feel good. If I'm Edmonton, I feel good because I do have in my book the two best players of the 50 guys that are, 25 guys on each team on both rosters. I feel I have the two best players. My goaltending is suspect, but my goaltending's always been suspect. And they went to the finals last year, and now they're in the semifinals. So it doesn't seem to bother them. And Stuart Skinner got back-to-back shutouts. I don't care if he got a lot of shots against or he didn't get a lot of shots. He still pitched bagels in a row, right? You know what I mean?
And the biggest games of the series, too. It's not like he did it early and then fizzled out. That's how he's trending at the moment.
Yeah, and that subject's always going to be there. It's just not going to go away. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And you feel for him. He seems like a good dude. Nice mustache, too. But, at the end of the day, I just think Dallas is a little deeper. I think Dallas is a little bit on a mission. Dallas is a little bit on, I want to get to the finals. I know they did, but it was the bubble year. I do believe in, again, I'm sticking to Dallas versus Colorado out of the first round is coming out of the West. I'm sticking to that. And, yeah, I'm not because I liked them. I don't like them, but I'm impressed by them.
Their ability to just win in a variety of ways. Their ability to dictate the tempo against some of these, high-paced teams, I think is such a strength. Obviously, Ottinger, who we've talked so much about in the last couple of weeks, he's been incredible. But I think what would scare me, even coming off of back-to-back shutouts from Edmonton's standpoint, is just the way that Dallas can, all of a sudden you look up and they score 3 goals in 3.5 minutes, and you're just like, God, that game got away from us quickly. Like, they didn't do anything for 15 minutes. you look up and now all of a sudden it's a multi-score game. They can overwhelm you. It'll be tough to stomach, from a longtime Mikko Rantanen supporter. I think I'm going to finally have to replace the Moose is Loose sticker I got on the laptop. It's just hurting the heart. It's hurting the heart as we go through.
And to your point there, you're talking about quick strikes. Look no further than last night, Game 7. Florida scores 3 in 6 minutes, and the minute that Toronto punches back a little bit, make it 3-1, 47 seconds later, boom. They hammer again. You know what I mean? And that's what you're talking about those teams there, Dallas, Edmonton. Have the ability to just kind of strike. I do believe those 4 teams have the ability, maybe less Carolina, because they don't have those high scoring guys. That's why they went and got Rantanen. It didn't fit. And they went and got Gensel last year. It didn't fit, didn't work. So maybe their team is what works for them, and we'll see if they can get it over the hump and then get it to the Stanley Cup Finals, where they haven't been in quite some time, obviously. But we'll see. And I think your points are valid. Chat's points are valid. Everybody's points are valid. Those are 4 good teams. You have to tip your hat to the 4 teams that are there. And, you go from there. And we'll see who emerges as the 2 teams that go to the finals.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We've got all kinds of great content coming your way the rest of the week, live at 2 p.m. every day like you're used to. Again, Rudo will be back. Shout out to everybody in the Toyota chat. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Tiff. Happy birthday. Much love to everybody out in our Avs fam. Have a great week, y'all. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.